Hi, everybody, and happy Tuesday. It's October 25th here at Forge, and I am on my own, but not really. Elena and Angie are nearby. I'm Elizabeth Vander Kamp and a very dear friend of Forge, or Forge is a dear friend of mine. And today, what I'd like to talk about is compassionate listening. And I invite you to just settle in wherever you are. Please get comfortable. If you have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea or some water, please have that nearby to sip while you listen. So, compassionate listening began a little over 30 years ago out in the northwestern part of the United States. And a woman, Jean Knudsen, who is now gone, but she was a Quaker, and she studied with the Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh, who recently died. Well, Jean taught what she learned to a woman named Leah Green. And Leah Green, along with Jean's mentorship, started compassionate listening. And the mission of compassionate listening is to heal the world from the inside out. And part of their work is realizing truly the only person we can heal is ourselves. And yet that healed self can go out into the world and shine a light. So compassionate listening it's a practice. It's really a way of living and a way of listening and communicating. And I am now a certified facilitator of this method, and please feel free to contact Forge if you want to hear more details than you hear today. But there are 5 practices that go with compassionate listening. And the first of those is compassion for ourselves and for others. And compassion literally means to suffer with. And I don't know about you, but I'm not real crazy about suffering. That's not something I'm going to sign up for. However, the word with, as many of you out there are maybe living with breast cancer or some other condition that is not easy to live with, nobody can do that for us or take it away, but they can accompany us on the journey. They can be with us. And the compassion for ourselves comes along. I can't give something that I don't have. And I'll just say my experience as a Southern woman is I was taught, and I think many of us are taught, not just as women, but and not just in the South, is that other people come first, which sounds beautiful and giving, and yet if we run out, then what? So I invite us to fill our own cups so that we can fill others. And here's an example. If I make a mistake, let's say I make a mistake at work, I forget to send an email, or actually earlier this week, I totally forgot about an appointment. And somebody was waiting for me because I messed up the date. Well, there was a time when I would have been like, Elizabeth, you screwed up. You wasted this person's time. How dare you? That is horrible. You need to send her flowers, a singing telegram, and apologize. But today, I would like to say in part, due to compassionate listening, I did apologize. I said, I am so sorry for taking your time. Could we please reschedule? And I let it go. Because that's all I could do. I apologized, I tried to set it right, and then I let it go. And because I was able to have compassion for myself, when my daughters got home that day and they had a hard day, I was available to listen to them and hopefully be present and supportive, not all mired up in how bad I felt. So compassion for self and others. The next practice of compassionate listening is one that my experience is a lot of people haven't heard of it, but it's called developing the fair witness. And I do have a funny story about this. Part of developing the fair witness in compassionate listening lingo is that we go to the balcony and we view everyone, including ourselves, down below from a bird's eye view, that we're on the balcony. it's like we're watching a play rather than engaging and getting all hot about a situation. Well, I was doing compassionate listening with the class, and one of my friends in the class raised her hand and she goes, "Now, what am I doing out on the patio?" And we all laughed because we're like, "You're not on the patio, you're on the balcony." But maybe a better way to look at it is, let's say, for example, we're in an argument with someone that we love very much, and I like vanilla ice cream and they like chocolate ice cream, and by goodness, I'm going to convince them that vanilla is better, and they're going to convince me that chocolate is better, and we have all our facts lined up, and this is why, and everybody gets hot and bothered, our voices are getting raised, we're getting madder and madder and madder. So, if I can develop the fair witness within myself and just step out and go above, not in a hierarchical sense, but just look at it, well, okay, I do like vanilla and she does like chocolate, and maybe she has a point, like chocolate has some caffeine and has other things, and so that I can pull myself out and take the heat out of the situation. It's not easy to do, and I'm not going to say that I'm good at it, but a beautiful thing about compassionate listening is that it's a practice. So I always get another chance to do it better. So just a quick review. We have compassion for self and others. Developing the fair witness is the second one. The third one is respect for self and others. And this is just slightly different than the compassion piece, because if I respect myself and I respect you, just like in the example I gave earlier, I did not respect this person's time when I forgot about the appointment. So I apologize for that, and I'm going to make sure that I respect it when we reconvene. It also means that by respecting myself, if I'm at the end of a long day, maybe for many of you, maybe it was a day of treatment or an appointment or just so many things going on, and somebody asks something of me, like, could you make dinner? That we can honestly say, I can't. To respect that part of ourselves that is done. And also, when we ask somebody else to do something, respect if they cannot do it. So it's setting up healthy boundaries that don't push people away or keep them out. But when we're done, and we can take the time we need to rejuvenate and then come back honestly. And that's, I feel like, a bedrock of compassionate listening. If I'm honest with myself and honest with you, our relationship will be so much richer and trustworthy and deep. So, respecting self and others. Now, we're coming to my two favorite ones, the last two. Listening with the heart. And I'll just say, in our culture at large, usually the head is much more valued, which is a wonderful thing. It's great that we have wonderful educational institutions, that facts are important and necessary things. And we also have this other organ, the heart. And science is showing us that our hearts actually have a brain. Literally a brain, a neurological system, and that things travel more from our heart to our head than our head to our heart. So when a baby is being formed in the womb, the heart forms before the head. And think about this. If I say to someone, I'm Elizabeth, I don't say, I'm Elizabeth. It's almost like I'm touching perhaps who I am, or my core right here in my heart. We also say, I remember learning my times table. I learn them by heart, not I learn them by head. It's like they are embedded in me. And listening with the heart asks of us to drop down out of maybe how we're going to respond, interrupting in agreement or disagreement, sharing our own story, putting our own story, imposing it on the other person. Instead, it's just, I think of it as like this beautiful ka-chunk I'm listening, and I'm restful because I'm not thinking of the next thing that's going to happen. I'm just with you, the speaker. So that's listening with the heart. And there's a wonderful organization called HeartMath, MATH.org. And if you're interested, they have lots of data about how much we do rely on our hearts and how much we can tap into that wisdom to help us in all situations. Now, the final practice of compassionate listening, and quite honestly, it's the fifth and final one because it is the hardest for most of us, and that's speaking from the heart. Because as you can probably guess, to do that asks of us to be vulnerable. That I'm not just spouting facts, but I'm revealing myself to you, and hoping that you will trust that. It also means that I've tapped into my heart. I've tapped into that center, to that place of wisdom and of love, and that's how I'm approaching. And of course, we don't have any power, any control over what someone else is going to do or how they're going to respond. But I'll say for myself that it's scary. That's how it's felt, and yet so rewarding. And I wonder if you've had an experience where maybe in a group it seemed like everybody was in agreement, but you could sense that everybody was not really in agreement, just kind of saying that they were to go along. And so maybe you were the person that spoke up and said, I don't think this is the best idea. And then everyone else felt the courage to join you in that. Or maybe you were one of the people that joined the person that spoke up. There are moments like that of course we know in history where people have stood up for themselves. Women stood up for the right to vote and had to do many more things than stand up. And of course the civil rights movement, which Birmingham, Alabama, where I am right now, is ground zero for in the United States. So there's a way to stand for ourselves and not against others. And I think that's what speaking from the heart offers us. So here's a final review of the 5 practices of compassionate listening. Compassion for ourselves and others, developing the fair witness, respecting self and others, listening from the heart, and speaking from the heart. I wish for you a wonderful, heart-filled day. And if you'd like more information about compassionate listening, please feel free to contact the Forge office and they can get in touch with me. And Compassionate Listening, the organization is compassionatelistening.org, and HeartMath is heartmath.org. And again, I hope you have a beautiful rest of the day. Namaste.